Right, so now that we've been able to work on the user routes that we had here, right, we want to start working on the authentication. And I basically need you to stick with me here because at the end of the day, I'm going to be introducing something new or a new concept called services in the backend. And services is just an extra cherry on top that basically helps you organize your code. It's one of the it helps you implement one of the code design principles, right? So in general, that's it. All right, please stay with me here. You get to learn such an interesting new addition, right? So basically, let's go the usual route for now by creating our controllers, right? So you have controllers. We'll definitely have something like a user.controller.js, and then you can definitely have authentication. Since you are going to be working on authentication for now, okay, then we have authentication dot. So authentication is too long, so auth.controller.js. Okay. Okay, so now that we have that, we want to make sure that we have it in our routes too. So auth.route.js, right? And then inside the route we can create this. We can just do this, right? And then we can say auth, right? We can say auth. Then over here we can import the auth here. So auth, and then we check the microphone. Okay, it works. Then so auth routes. Then we have auth.route.js here. Okay, then I'll just replace it here. Okay, so we have this one replaced. The reason why we're getting the errors is because we've not set up the routes. So what I'll do, I'll just copy this and I'll take it into the auth.route.js and I'll paste this, and then I'll just clean this part. It just has to be exported, and then we know that we are now using auth routes like we expect to use them. Okay, so let's just set up our auth.controller, right? So the first thing that we want to work on is register, right? We want to work on the register controller, right? So how do we do that? The the normal algorithm behind register. Let me open up mongodb compat so I'll take this. So the normal thinking process to the register is to basically create a new document in the database, but this document is going to be a user document in general, right? And then let me open up my browser just in case we need to test some things in there, right? And one more thing, Postman. So test our APIs. Let's do this. So in order for us to create a register, we're going to say register. Then we would say, so we have register, and then it's going to be an asynchronous function. Then we have request response, right? Then inside our request and response, what do? We open up our try catch block, and then we can basically res status. You can send a res to status dot 500. Yeah, and then we can send a JSON. Then we can send say the error should be error. Okay, then we can send out a message that says, error occurred registering user. Okay, then over here, and we can also log the error too, so So inside our try, what do? We want to create a new user, right? So I'm going to say new user, then new user, we are going to have to take the user model and create a new instance of it, right? So I'm going to come here and import the user model. So I'm going to say import user model from, then where am I taking it from? I'm going to go into the models section, the models folder, and then pick it up from here. Don't forget to add the extensions, or else you're going to get an error. Okay, so we have new user, and then I'll use my new user model. Okay, then inside I have, how am I going to create my new user, right? I'm going to have to take the email. Okay, I'm taking in the email. I'm going to take the password. Okay, and the username of the user. So the first thing is username. Okay, I'm going to take the username, and I could put in anything inside the user. So I could say something like Kofi. Then I could go down and say email. I could put in something like Kofi at gmail.com. Okay, then I could say password. Okay, password, and the password is going to be Kofi1. Okay, then I could say I'm going to await this new user. I'm going to await this new user and save it inside the database. Okay, so after it has been done, I want to status. I want to send a response, and the status is going to be 200, and then I'm going to say it is JSON. It's going to come out as a JSON object, and then I'm going to drop out this new user, right? And then I'm going to send out a message. The message is going to say user has been registered. Is it how to spell registered? Yeah, I think so. Registered. I don't know. I think registered successfully. Okay. Yeah, it should be registered successfully. Okay, so now that I have this, I want to export it. So I'll come here, and so I could export it as a module, right? So I'll just write the export statement since we're using the emoji version. Okay, so export, then we're exporting this. Then I'll go into my routes, my auth route here, and I'll create a new route for registering, right? So I'll say something like a router dot push. Since it's going to be a push request, then we're going to take in the path, right? So it's going to be auth slash so base URL, then base URL slash auth, then we can say register or something. Yeah, so let's go to the route again. So slash auth, then we bring the register, then we pass in our register function. Okay, it said a module is not found. What is it? What is not found? Auth controller. Yeah. So .js, right? We need to make sure that we bring in the extension. Okay, so now that we have this, I think we can test it out. I'm not going to pass anything through Postman, as in I'm not going to pass anything through the body. So let's just create a new collection, a blank collection, and I'm going to, inside this collection, I'm going to name the collection YT social app. Okay, YT social app, and then I'm going to create a folder, and then I'm going to say the folder name is auth, right? Then inside auth, I'm going to add a request, and then that request is definitely going to be a post request, and then base URL auth register, right? Okay, so auth register. Then I could, if I had written the functionality in a certain way, I would have to set up something here and then put in something here. But for now, we already have something inside this register here that we can just test out right away. So no need, let's just test it out and make sure that it's working. Then I'll show the second method, right? So how do we do this? I'm gonna go into my postman. We already have this, so I'm just going to send. Okay, what is the problem? The request couldn't be sent. Yeah, the base URL, we do not have a base URL here, so I'm gonna go here. I'm going to go into my variables, and then I'm going to set up my base URL, and then the initial value is going to be http localhost what's a localhost? Oh, I need to check. Let's check the server. 5,000. Okay, localhost 5,000. Okay, localhost 5,000 slash API slash v1 slash API slash v1. Okay, so now that we know that we have this inside here, we can now say okay, I'm wondering why it is not. Let me save it. I need to go back and save it. Okay, so it's saved. I'll go here and then it should appear. Okay, let's just add a new variable. Okay, localhost 5,000 slash API slash v1. Okay, we can set that as only the YT social app. Okay, so yeah, it's set up. So slash auth slash register, right? Then we can just save. Okay, then we can just send. Okay, so as you can see, the new user has been created with the values that we pass in, the Kofi at Gmail, and then the password Kofi, right? Now there are some things that we are going to change. We are going to first of all make sure that we are creating the user from our client, right? And then this is what is going to help us simulate such an environment, a client environment. And then we're also going to make sure that the password isn't being saved as Kofi1, right? We want to make sure that it's a hashed password, just so it'll be a little bit difficult for people who want to breach security to acquire these passwords, right? So how are we going to do that? Let's go back into our controller. I'll go into the auth controller, and then here I'm going to say, instead of saying Kofi, I'm going to say request dot body dot username, right? And then over here I would say something like a request dot body dot email, right? And then over here I would say a request dot body dot password, right? Okay, so instead of passing in the password like this, we are going to have to create a hashed password. But how do we create a hashed password? Let me open up my second server. Okay, and then I'm going to say npm I, then I'm going to install bcrypt, right? Bcrypt. So while bcrypt installs, let's just import it so that it gets imported automatically in case it's done importing, it's done installing, right? So I'm going to say import bcrypt. I'm going to import bcrypt from the bcrypt package. Okay, bcrypt. Okay, so we have bcrypt being installed from bcrypt. Then I would say const hashed password is going to be equal to bcrypt, going to be bcrypt dot what, hash sync. Okay, going to be bcrypt dot hash sync. Then we have what, request dot body. I'm going to hash the request dot body dot password that is coming through. Okay, and then, or the password that we are typing through the body, and then we are going to sort it up by 10, right? And then after we've been able to sort it up and everything, we can now send this hash password through into the database. Okay, we should be saved by now, so we can test it and make sure that it's working. So let's go back into Postman, and then inside our new post request, let me say register user. I'll save it, and then I'll change this to raw, and then JSON. You set this to JSON in case yours hasn't been set automatically. So we have the username. So for the username here, if you check, let's check our database. Okay, while our database is opening, we can create a new user. So we have username, and then okay, so for the username, we are going to set up and say something like Amma, and then I could say that the email should be amma@gmail.com, and then don't forget to put it inside your and then inside my password, I'm gonna put in amma1. Okay, save it, and then I'm going to send. Okay, let us go into the YT social app. We have users, so we have Kofi here, but we don't want to store it as Kofi like this, right? So I'm going to just send, and as you can see, this is the password. Okay, so I'm gonna refresh this. Okay, but you see, there's something a little dangerous about this. Okay, I think we are going to do that inside the logging part, so that shouldn't be a problem. So, and besides, you don't want to be okay. Let's just set it up here. So in case we want to send out our new user, right, but we don't want to add a password to it, we want to separate this. So I'm going to say const, then I'm going to take these two things, right? I'm going to take the password out, right, and I'm going to say rest of the data, right, and then all of it. So I'm going to say it is inside the new user / doc. It's all these are objects inside, so I'm rather going to print this one out instead of the password. So let me try this, okay, and then you see what I'm trying to say. So over here you can see that we are returning the password, but we don't want to return the password in the client side, right, because we don't want people to get access to this. So That's how we're going to separate it. So I'm just going to delete this AMA that we have in the database, so that we can just send AMA. So here this is how it's going to appear. Okay, so as you can see, there's no password inside being sent to the client, so that's safer. Okay, so that's it. Then we can we can go into creating the login, right? But hey, I mentioned that I was going to teach an interesting concept about services, right? So how are we going to set up our services? Okay, I'm going to open up the server, and then I'll say services. I'm going to open up the server folder, create a new folder called services, and then inside I could say auth.service.js. Okay, now inside auth.service.js, I could take this whole thing, right, and then copy it here. Okay, let's not forget our import statements that we had on top. You wouldn't even need these ones here anymore. You just go into the services and use them there. So inside my service, okay, so the whole idea is to just pass in the body, right? It's just passing the body as a parameter, and then instead of saying request the body.password, you just say body here, and then instead of request the body.username, you just say body, right? And then instead of this, you just say body. Okay, then where else? Okay, so usually when something like this happens, you don't want to respond your data here. That's not what you want to do, right? You're going to take items like that into your controller. So what this one is basically going to do is, fine, I'm taking this out, okay, and then I'm going to take this one out as well. Then over here too, I could take this one out as well. This is my try catch block. I could take my try catch block out as well, and then I'll just make it be like this. Okay, so now that we have this, we know it's an async. We are passing in the body, and we are saving it, right? So inside our auth.controller.js, we could do this instead, right? This is our try. So I would say, okay, so I'll just rename this as register service or register user, right? Then inside the auth controller, I can clean this up. So yeah, so after cleaning that up, I'll make sure that inside my try, I'll await register user. Right, I'll await register user, and I'll pass in the request.body. So what this request.body does to this register user, okay, temp module not found. Okay, yeah, the .js. Okay, so what this register user will do is that it will take this request.body that we are passing in, right? It's going to take it and then pass it through this body parameter, and then this is going to be request.body.password, request.body.username, request.body.email, and then yes, obviously the one on top. So it awaits this save, this new user.save, saves it into the database, and then we get the response.json as the data. So over here we instead of, if we want to separate them, we're going to bring like a const. We're going to create like a const of new user. Okay, then we can await this. So instead of awaiting this new user, we can implement that functionality that we had there. So we spread it out as password and then data, and we are taking this data from the new user. Okay, then we are sending the data as a response, right? And then we can test it out again to make sure that it works. So let me go to my database and clean out AMA so we can test it by sending AMA. Okay, so I'll go to postman and then I'll send AMA. Okay, an error occurred. Okay, what's the error? Repeat password of new user is undefined. Okay. 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 Property password is undefined. Where is it undefined at? So it's at register. Okay. Okay, it's at register. I could clean this up and then log out. This. So we test this one first and see what we are getting. Yeah, we forgot to clean out AMA that we had here. Right. So we can test it out well. Okay, so user has been registered successfully. We can so when we check inside the database here, we realize that AMA has been registered, right, with the password and everything. Right, so we can basically move on to the next one, which is login, right? So how do we implement this login that we have, right? How do we do that? Now here's what we're going to do. I'm going to create a new controller here. I'm going to create a new controller here, and then I'm going to say that controller is going to be a login. So I'm going to say login. Okay, so login, right? Okay, and then login is basically going to be an asynchronous function, and then it's going to have a request response. Okay, request response. Then we're going to have our try catch, but we could just take this try catch here, this try catch that we have here. Okay, and then we could just replace it here, and then over here we just take this out, and then make sure that we go into our service. Let's go into our auth service and work on the login. So here, after we are done saving, we forgot to return. So we return what? New user. Okay, so that's the only way that we'll be able to separate them after it has been returned, right? So we can go back to the auth controller and then separate them like we did before. So I say const password, then data is equal to new user, and I'll put the data here. Okay, then everything should work fine if we test it. So yeah, yes, you can see that we have this object coming out, and then you see why we use the doc. So we can just put the doc in here instead. So doc, okay. So hopefully it works now. Then for the login, my battery is about to die, so let's just move fast with this. Okay, so for the login, here's what we're going to do. Right, I'm going to say that here's what we're going to do. We're going to look through the database and make sure that we are finding a particular user, and if we can't find the user, we just send out a message saying user not found, and then we try to validate the user password by comparing what is inside the body, the password, and then the user that we found in the database is password using bcrypt, and make sure that it's correct. If it's not correct, you say wrong password, but if it is, we just return the normal user, right? So how do we set this up? I can basically, okay, let's just set this up ourselves. So I'll say login user, and then when we log in the user, we want to make sure it's an asynchronous function, okay, with the request, no, no, with the body. This is not a controller, so with the body. And then after the body, what do we have? We have a try catch block. We have a try. Okay, I don't know why the PC is being slow. I want a snippet. We have a try catch. So we catch the error. And then we log out the error. Okay, let me put my PC on charge, then we continue. Alright, so we can take this so instead of using try catch over here in our service, we don't use it, and then we just start, right? So we just start with the const, then inside the const we just call out the user, right? Let's call out the user, and then while trying to get the user, we can await this user with the user model that we brought out, right? We check through the user model collection, and then we try to find, so we find one. Okay, we find one, then you find the user. So we find a user with an email of buddy.email. Let's save that. Okay, buddy.email. Then we want to make sure that we have our checks here. So if there is no user, right, if there is no user here, we want to send out a response.status. Send out a response.status.404, and then we'd say that we would just send a JSON message that says that the user, so user not found, right? So user not found, we save that. User not found. Okay, then I would come here and then ask for the password. We want to validate the password just in case we get the user. So valid password, or let's say password check. So password check. Then we say we would await the bcrypt package. Okay, dot compare, right? We want to compare this package. So we want to compare with the package, and then what are we comparing with? We want to compare with the request.body, so the body dot password, okay, body dot password, and we're going to compare with the user that we have there, that user's password as well. Okay, then let me save up. It's well formatted. Then we now do our checks and say that if the password check returns a false value, which means if we check the password and then it doesn't match, right, we want to send out a response, right? We want to send out a response saying rest.status, right? They will say rest.status, and then that would be 400, and then we'd say what we say. We send out a JSON message saying what? Saying that wrong password. Wrong password. Okay, then I'll save that. Then I'll come and return. I'll make sure that I return this user in case what? In case everything goes on well. So I'll return this user in case everything goes on well, right? So let's go into our author controller, and then let's work on the login here. So we have our try catch block. What can we do? We can say that const logged in user is going to be equal to await. So await login. We forgot to export. Did we export here? Auth service. Okay, we haven't exported. So export. We're going to export this, and then inside our auth controller, I'm going to say login this. So login the user. Okay, let's make sure that we have okay, logged in user. Then we're going to say that so this login, we are going to pass in the request dot body. Okay, if you remember the concept, we pass in the request dot body, and then we make sure that we pass in the request dot body, okay, which replaces request dot body dot email and request dot body dot password, right? So just so you remember that concept that we learned. Okay, so we pass in the request dot body, and then in case it is successful, we can send back a response dot status 200. So we can send back a response dot status 200, and then we can say JSON. Okay, we can say JSON, and then we can send out a message saying we can send out a message saying user logged in successfully, and then we can basically send our user, so our logged in user, to the client, so that the client sees the user that logged in, right? You can also do that similar separation thing that we did, but let's test it out and make sure that it works. So error occurred, logging user in. Okay, alright, so I'm going to export this login functionality as well. I'm going to export this, and then I'll go into my author routes, and then I would copy this line and then I'll paste this line, and then I'll just change this to login, and then I'll make this login as well. Okay, then we can go into our postman and then create a new request. Create a new request saying login. So I'll just say post, then auth register, then I'll just change this to login, right? Okay, so login. Okay, then inside my body I can change this to raw, and then JSON, yeah. Then I can take this part, I can take just the email. I can take the email, and then I can just paste. What did I do? I can just paste here. So we have this section, and then we have this section as well. Okay. Something seems to be wrong here. I'll just copy this whole part. I'll copy this part, paste it, and I'll cut this one off. Right, then I would send this. Error code. Let's see what's wrong. Logged in user not defined. Okay. Login. Okay. Logged in user. So we can test it again. Okay, so the password still comes. We can separate it by coming here, copying this, and then pasting it here. It's password data. We are taking this data from where the logged in user here, replacing it here, and then we can now pass data. Okay, then we can now test our login one more time. Okay, we are safe and running. Thank you very much for getting to this and for the getting to the end of the video. I appreciate the time that you spent. Yes, please like and subscribe. The next video we are going to be talking about CRUD operations, how to work with CRUD operations, especially with the users. Okay, and we are going to learn how to do that with JWT and the rest. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.